So now I kind of just want to like dive right in the book because there's so much juicy and so many directions that I want to. First of all, for everybody listening, I just think that this is that book. This is kind of it reminds me of like the first time when like Kite Runner, came into the forefront. It's like one of those OGs that you're like, yep, gotta get. I feel like this book is that for like our generation, for women, for, you know, I in painting a story. So take us through, first of all, why this story, and fleshing this full story out, and, what were kind of the meanings that, you were desiring behind it?
Yeah. So when I started as a short story, I had a whole list of stories I wanted to write on underrepresented, the girl child, like underrepresented voices. And this one was just like, it kept standing out to me, these two characters, Amla and Asya. They're sisters. And so they're twin sisters, which I always had a fascination with. I have a sister and we're beyond
Mhm.
close. I mean, we're not twins by any means, but it feels like that sometimes. Like we have such a connection that I thought, well, imagine we were twins, right? Like, how would that feel?
Mm.
And I used to read a lot of fiction as a kid. And I loved stories about twins. I love stories about sisters. I loved Lisa C. She does a lot of historical fiction. Wally Lamb, back in the day, he wrote a bunch of books on twins, and so I was kind of enthralled by this idea. So I said, all right, well, here's the story I think I want to expand. Um, they
Is
in
your
the
sister older or younger?
She's younger, and
Okay.
she's a Scorpio, so that's just yeah. So
We love Scorpios, we do.
Uh, so basically, I thought, well, how am I going to expand on this story? And I started playing with the idea of making it in two narratives, and that was very hard because I needed
Mm.
them to sound different. So that essentially, I needed them to both be different, um, and and that became like my just the whole, like you were mentioning, character development. And then I started realizing this was more symbolic than just two sisters. And so as I kind of led through Amla's side of the whole story and then Asya's side of the whole story, not only of them being unknowingly trafficked, but then when they're separated, they're both in different places. And I won't give it away, but
Mhm.
do they come back to each other or not? And that is the premise of really the story. While
Mm.
it does take place in a partly in a brothel and New York City and a bunch of places. I wanted to depict this feeling that I think all girls have, especially what I'm talking about that I was going through, of this idea of wanting to be a good girl, which is
Mhm.
exactly what Asya is, and then also wanting to question authority and do things differently, and that is essentially what Amla does. And so it's more about the duality of just feminine self. We all have dual layers to life and to existence, and even those of us whose voices are not heard, and even more so, talking about it from their context, um, because to me, I was like, if I can have someone relate to this in a way that they've never thought they would, then maybe they'd be inclined to do something or talk about it more, have important discussions, and we can change it, right? Like stories are how we change the narrative. And I
Mhm.
think as South Asian women, the second class citizenship of what's going on for a lot of women and girls, a lot of brown
Yeah.
women and girls around the world, is something. As a privileged brown woman, how am I going to just let that slide as a writer? So that's how it all came together. So while it's a story
Mm.
of sisters, it does have a lot more meaning, like you mentioned.
See you next time at the Brave Table.